11, 12. The bar goes back on the rack, not because the arms quit, because a man got to a number in his head. I watched that happen in a basement under a hardware store on Broadway for 41 years, and it took me most of them to work out what was wrong with it. That number was written in 1948. It was written for wounded soldiers, and the man who wrote it never meant 2 of those 3 sets to count for anything. Have you ever put a weight down because you hit the rep and not because you were finished? Put it in the comments. This is what After 60 Strength covers. Subscribe so you catch the next one. 3 sets of 10. Ask any man in any gym in this country what a set of work looks like, and that is the answer you get back. Here is what it says on paper. Thomas DeLorme was an Army physician. In 1948, he and Walter Watkins published the version that spread everywhere, and it had 3 sets in it, and every set had 10 reps in it, and that is where most men stopped reading. The weight was not the same on all 3. Set 1 was 10 reps at half of what you can handle for 10. Set 2 was 3/4. Only the 3rd set was at full load. Put a number on it so it stops being abstract. Say a man can press 100 pounds 10 times and no more. DeLorme has him press 50, rest, then 75, rest, then the 100, and that last one is the only set that was ever meant to cost him anything. 2 warm-ups and 1 working set. That is the rule. That is what went into the textbook in 1951 and out into every physical therapy room and every commercial gym on earth. Now count what a man over 60 actually does on a Tuesday. Same plate on the bar, 3 times, 10 each. He is performing the 2 warm-up sets of a rehabilitation protocol at the wrong load 3 mornings a week and calling it training. The 3 survived and the percentages did not. A number is easy to carry from one gym to the next. A loading scheme takes a man 10 minutes to explain, and somewhere along the line, nobody bothered. The part that makes no sense to me is that 78 years went by and nobody thought to mention it. I trained the same men down those stairs from their 30s into their 70s. 3 generations of steelworkers came through that room. The ones who held on were never the ones you would have picked at 40. Nobody would have bet $1 on the electrician. I would not have. The strongest man I ever had quit at 55 and was leaning on a cane by 68. There was a skinny electrician in my room who never pulled more than 225 in his life, and at 81, that man was still splitting and carrying his own firewood. I kept a notebook on that basement. Names, ages, what a man could still get off the floor the week he turned 70. Not one page of it looked like the program printed in the magazines. What I wrote down was never how much a man lifted. It was whether he could still get down on the floor after a dropped screw and get back up without a hand on the furniture. That is the column that mattered, and no magazine ever had it. Before the rest of this makes any sense, go and test yourself. Find a kitchen chair with no arms on it. Fold your arms across your chest so you cannot cheat with a push. Stand all the way up and sit all the way down 5 times as fast as you can do it clean. Time it. Richard Bohannon pooled 13 studies on that exact test in 2006 and published what ordinary looks like by decade. Past 11.5 seconds in your 60s. Past 12.5 in your 70s. Coming up on 15 at 80. If you went over your number, I am talking to you. That test is not a party trick. A doctor uses it to work out whether a man is going to keep living in his own house. It shows up in the paperwork before a fall does, before the hospital stay, before the rail on the stairs, before the conversation with your daughter about the spare room at her place. Grip is the other one. In 2015, Daryl Leong published a study out of 17 countries and 139,691 people in the Lancet. Every 5 kilos of grip a man loses tracks with a 16% higher risk of dying of anything at all. Grip beat blood pressure as a predictor. Nobody at any gym I ever set foot in was measuring it. 41 years of watching men come down my stairs, and the one thing that told me who was in trouble was a handshake. Not the bench, not the belt size, the hand. So where did the number come from? The war is ending, and the Army has more men with wrecked joints than it has beds to put them in. DeLorme is the physician in that hospital. He had used weights on himself as a boy to come back from an illness, so he did the thing nobody else on that ward would do. He put load on injured men instead of resting them. He was not only working on soldiers either. He and Watkins were rebuilding people coming out of polio, and they said in print that the 2 light sets suited the patients in front of them. Patience. That word is doing more work than anybody noticed. A paratrooper named Walter Easley came to him with a knee the surgeons had already given up on. DeLorme put him on 7 sets of 10. 7, not 3. Inside a month, Easley had a bigger thigh and no pain in the knee, and word of it went through the hospital and then through the whole profession. 3 years later, DeLorme and Watkins cut it back. They wrote that the original volume had turned out to be too high, and they brought it down to 3. There is no theory underneath the number 3. It is what was left over after a man trimmed his own protocol. And if you want proof that the order was never settled, somebody built the exact reverse of it, and that works too. They call it the Oxford technique. Full load first, then 3/4, then half. Same 3 sets, run backwards, still in the textbooks. A rule that runs every gym on this planet is the remainder of somebody cutting a prescription he wrote for injured paratroopers. Which bothers you more, that it was never built for you, or that 78 years went by before anybody said so out loud? The 10 came out of that rehabilitation ward. The 3 got its reinforcement somewhere else entirely. In 1962, Richard Berger ran 9 different programs against each other. 177 college men, 12 weeks, 1 lift, the bench press. His conclusion was 3 sets of 6. 6. The 10 in your head is from a war hospital. The 3 is from a bench press study on 20-year-olds. Somebody spliced them together and handed the result to your generation as a law of nature. And DeLorme knew. In that 1951 textbook, he and Watkins put it in writing that other combinations might turn out just as good. 75 years that sentence has been sitting in print where anyone could read it. Here is the part I care about, because it is the only part that is about men our age. Ron Borde and 2 colleagues went and looked properly in 2015. They pulled every decent resistance training trial in healthy older adults they could find and published the dose in Sports Medicine. 2 to 3 sets, 7 to 9 reps, 6 full seconds under load on every single repetition. Not 10. 9 at the top of the range. 6 seconds a rep is slower than any man in any room is moving that bar. Watch the next fellow who walks past you in a gym and count it yourself. He is up in 1 second and down in less, and gravity is doing the second half of the job for him. If you think the ceiling is your birthday, I want you to know about something from 1990. Maria Fiatarone took 10 frail people out of a nursing home. Average age, 90. The oldest was 96. 8 weeks of heavy resistance work. Their strength went up an average of 174%, and their walking improved by nearly half. That was published in JAMA 36 years ago, and it has been sitting there ever since while the industry sold your generation a chair. I will give the rule its due. If what a man wants is to stay active and keep his heart honest, 3 sets of 10 will do that fine. It is a decent floor, and I am not going to call it a lie. But the body that taught it has moved. In March of this year, the American College of Sports Medicine put out its first serious rewrite of resistance training guidance in 17 years. They went through 137 reviews and better than 30,000 people. Anything from 5 reps to 30 works, so long as the effort inside it is real. Machines against free weights did not consistently matter. Training all the way to failure did not consistently matter. The count was never the thing. The effort was the thing, and a number on a whiteboard was hiding it. I am not going to stand here and tell you the answer is fewer sets, or heavier plates, or a slower tempo. Nobody has run the trial. There is no study that put 3 sets of 10 up against something else in men over 60 and settled the argument. Borde pooled work that was never designed to answer that question, and I will not pretend to you that he did more than that. What I can tell you is what 41 years of a notebook says, and the notebook agrees with Borde a great deal more than it agrees with the magazines. One more thing, and I want to say it plainly, because I think a few of you have been carrying it a long while. If you trained for years and got very little back, the fault was in the instruction. You were handed a rehabilitation protocol from 1948 at the wrong load and told it was a training program. You did it correctly. It was the wrong thing to be doing correctly. Ray Dombrowski pulled 315 off the floor in my basement at 71 years old. That man never counted to 10 in his life. He counted to whatever the morning would give him, and then he came back on Tuesday and did it again. Once you understand that the number was somebody else's, you will start reading every other number you were handed the same way. The reps, the minutes, the age printed on the form at the doctor's office. That is what After 60 Strength does. Subscribe and you will catch the next one.